The Palace of Speed. Early on in this race.
Spec-5 World Tour has been all around the world this season. Last round in Sonoma, California. Now on the Grand Prix circuit of Silverstone, a track that will probably give us a little bit more slipstreaming out of these MX-5s than we saw at Sonoma and bring us back to some of the glory of Daytona. We've brought you every round here on HJBC. David Haynes with Devin Peters, Michael Derby. Well, it's an interesting little layout, not the modern Grand Prix layout, Devin, but one that I think I remember maybe watching British Grand Prix on recorded VHS.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, 2003 wasn't that long ago. It is the one that speaks most fondly to me, though, and I'm looking forward to watching them go around beautiful corners like Bridge and Priori. I definitely know all the names, so don't quiz me.
Helpfully, they're actually written around the track in a couple of places in the Santander Bank font. But you still have the most famous, I think, section of this track, and it's here in the opening part of the lap on this version with Maggots, Beckett's, this section of really fast, really quick change of direction, almost oversized autocross. You got to keep the car on the right line, keep the weight balanced supremely as you carry as much speed, but also then primed for the next direction change, into the next direction change to carry as much speed out here onto Hangar Straight, one of the key slipstreaming and overtaking opportunities, but there are plenty around this track. As per usual, it's a 45-minute race coming up where there's going to be a pit stop required inside of the pit window for fuel, but before that comes qualifying, and it's a 15-minute session. I've been hearing that actually This old Silverstone layout's a relatively abrasive circuit, so I can't tell you sort of which lap of these 4 you're going to see the fastest lap time set, but because it's a Grand Prix size lap and apparently a little abrasive, it might come a little earlier in the session than some other tracks.
Yeah, I could absolutely believe that. You got plenty of time to get the tires up to temp with all these long straightaways too. But I have a feeling actually that the initial section that you were just talking about through Maggots and Beckett's is it's going to cause our drivers some problems with the tires not quite being up to temp. We're seeing weaving as I sort of scroll through all the different views we have on board, and lots of weaving and lots of folks trying to get the cars working right, because as we've seen, this setup has proven to be a little bit loosey-goosey, especially on cold tracks, and it's a cold one out there today, 68 Fahrenheit. And 67 in the air with a pretty mild breeze. And yeah, we'll see what happens. We're getting a few guys coming around to start their first lap.
We do. Ian Giebler goes through the first turn here of Copse. Very, very quick, but you've got to respect the track limits on the exit there as well. And then towards Maggots and Beckett's for Ian Giebler.
Yeah, we're just catching Michael Coates leaving the pit lane, and that's not for his first lap. That's after he took a very adventurous line through Copse, turns in, and the car just doesn't go with him. Rear end disappears, and he tries to chase it, and you'll see he manages to find almost the gap between the two barriers, needed every single inch to get it stopped before the wall.
Man nearly ended up in the fan zone there.
And he's going around again.
You are kidding me. Clearly struggling with the balance on what's a quite cold, should be quite grippy, but potentially quite snappy track condition out there as well. So it's just a nightmare for him. And that's not even on a next flying lap. That's him trying to get around on his outlap to start it all again. There are other drivers having slightly fewer problems. So look at Joshua Soto. Where's he around his lap? Almost halfway around the lap here. He's got a couple of purple sectors to his name, but again, probably the second or third flying lap. Might be where the magic is in the tyres and in the track condition at the moment, but he's quick at the moment.
Yeah, he's setting our early pace. It's a shorter grid than we've seen in the last few rounds, but we got to think that that's going to mean there's some opportunities for our open class drivers, so we'll keep an eye. Our usual fast qualifier Ian Giebler's in the field today, currently lapping around in a white car, but we'll check in on him in a moment. Oh, there he is. And we got Zeus Dalston, Paulo Coimbra, Josh Olsen, and Greg Mack rounding out the open class field. First couple times they're starting to come in. Let's see what Giebler does when he hits the line here. And Giebler's going to put in what looks to be a 2:09.9, so a pretty quick time. Still a couple seconds off the absolute pace that we saw, but good enough for what I think is fifth place as it stands. Fifth place. There it is.
Yeah, a lot of other times coming in at the moment as well. So 12, now 13 drivers with the time as Camden Hibbett goes all the way to the top. Joshua Soto, it seems like his first lap didn't count, so he might have picked up some track limits somewhere around. A couple places that could happen. Immediately at the start of the lap on the exit of Copse is, of course, an opportunity. And then Maggots Beckett's Chapel, just where Joshua Soto's been through this time. You can get a little bit off your line.
Yeah, easy to do, especially when the tires aren't performing quite like you'd like them to. But yeah, I think you're right. We're gonna see the pace increasing all the way. I'm actually pretty impressed with that time that Camden managed to put in. A 2:08.8 is only a second off the sort of top times that we were seeing in the warm-up session. So he's clearly done the work, swerved around, and gotten that thing feeling a little bit better. It is. I do also appreciate, and this is probably contributing to the amount of off tracks we're seeing, but I just love grass right on the other side of the curbs. You know, I know it's bad for Formula One cars, but you know, it's good. It's good for cars like these.
So it's still purple sectors for Camden Hibbert as we follow him around towards the Abbey chicane here. Really, it's all about the first part. The second part of the chicane really opens up. So you use all of the track on the way in and then just to the other side of the track as the circuit goes right hand. Then underneath through Bridge Corner here, which again, basically flat out, but you're just trying to get the car on the right line for this part of the lap that closes out the lap time and just gets a little tighter, progressively tighter, corner to corner as you work your way through here until you end up at this big, long hairpin here. And the exit there in the run to the line. It's pretty important. And Hibbert, he's keeping it a tight line all the way around compared to sometimes you see drivers make a diamond sort of double apex or just a late apex of it. So a couple of the purple sectors have been taken away from Camden Hibbert as he's gone around here. As he crosses the line and he goes back up to the top and he pushes Josh Soto down into second, whose second lap did count.
Yeah, quick one from Hibbert there too, a 2:08.420. Zoom, and he'll carry that one on. Brett J. Marshall, a new name for me. Brett currently sitting now fourth on the grid with a 2:08.6. That's a quick one from him. But he was just pipped off the podium by Tim and Bramley, who's come around and set a 2:04.63 of his own. So 2:08.463. So a quick lap from him.
Timon Bramley is in a new livery here, suspiciously Aston Martin. Maybe he's celebrating the good V12 Le Mans news, but all of the stuff written on it's still the same as far as Birdcage and the Bend and all of that, but he's less multicolored and more light green, earth green, leaf green, emerald green.
Aussie green.
The other greens?
Kiwi.
British green. Racing green.
Oh, yeah, one of those. Green, hair green. He's repping it, though, for sure.
Hey, the bottle says turquoise, Devon, so that's what it is.
Hey, and to all our Spec-5 racers out there, if you want to know what color David Haynes' hair is, you have to win a race so you can come to the broadcast booth. There you go.
Apparently. So there's two drivers without qualifying times at the moment, Lee Martin and Tom Sanders. Geordie Fike is 5 seconds off at the moment, but there's only 100th of a second to separate the drivers at the top as Ronnie Coates improves into second place. Camden Hibbert is on a lap that could yet improve him. So still time to be found on the third flying lap, which is good.
Yeah, still little bits coming off here and there. Ronnie Coates comes through and sets a quick one, 2:08.168. That's just 0.06 off. And Camden comes back and stretches it a little bit more. Now 900 separating first and second. Really tight battle up at the front, and the two of them are kind of separating themselves at this point from the rest of the field. We're seeing everything from Mitchell Peak at a 2:08.4, stretching down to Ray Lombardi in 19th with a 2:09.4. And of course, as I report times, they change. But a pretty tight-looking grid for what we're talking about here today.
The times, they are a-changing, as they say. And we've just seen Geordie Fike, Ray Lombardi, and their new esports racer livery. So there's a couple of sort of mid-season livery changes going on out here. Ian Giebler's not one of them, as he is the open class pole sitter, still for the moment on his fourth of 4 laps in this qualifying session. There have been no personal best sectors so far. Half a tenth lost in the first, 0.2 lost in the next. So it looks like this is probably 3, now 0.6 down on his best as he makes sure some of that trackside grass is neatly mown.
Yeah, the only one who I'm seeing put in a really quick looking one right now is maybe the likes of I'm going to say Josh Soto. There's a couple guys out there, but Josh Soto is back on a flyer, and he's set green sectors and purple sectors, and he's drifting the heck out of the thing. We'll see if that was fast through there. Not sure that's how you're supposed to do Brooklands and Luffield, but hey, we'll see if it works here when he gets to the stripe.
We'll allow it. So Joshua Soto at the moment 5th. He's had good sectors all the way around on this 4th lap to improve on a 2:08.4. He gets a 2:08.1 to jump him a couple of positions, but that final sector just the final couple corners just let him down a tiny bit. He's not taking pole away. Timon Bramley's got it at the moment from Ronnie Coates, from Cairns and Hibbett. Hibbett's qualifying is done. Coates' qualifying is done. Timon Bramley potentially down a little bit on this lap so far.
Jordy Fikes coming to the line with what looks like a decent one for him. Not quite enough. Oh man, 12 thousandths off of his last lap. So very consistent, but not improving this time.
Timon Bramley's final lap was just misses out on improvement by 1/10. So there's only a couple of drivers out there still qualifying. They're Eugenio Pellicci, Ray Lombardi, Paulo Coimbra, and we do have Tom Sanders and Lee Martin out on track now, but both of them are a little bit late to the party, which I'm told is rude in Britain.
That does sound real to me. But yeah, Tom Sanders, let's ride along with him. He's coming through the final sector of the track, just heading down into Bridge, and then you gotta tell me, is it Priory? I don't think I've ever heard this one on the broadcast.
Priory, as I suspect how it's pronounced. Doesn't really exist anymore.
That's true. That's probably why you don't hear it very often. But takes a turn into left field here, and we'll see. It's been a decent lap for him. Green sectors, of course, as tends to be the case when you're doing your second lap.
A priory is a type of monastery. So they've got chapel on the other side of the track, and just to balance it out, one of them others has got to be called priory. So how did that lap go for Tom?
209.5, pretty good improvement over the first one, nearly a second, actually a little more than a second better. And he's right now kind of going to be working himself to try and get out of that pack of open drivers we've got back there. Ian Giebler's going to put himself in 12th place, but the rest of the open field is sitting right now between 17th and 22nd. So you got to think things will be about as hairy as that line was through Chapel Curve there.
So 22 cars for today's racing, and about 20 of them are done and parked up. But Lee Martin is now on his third lap of the session here. Same for Tom Sanders, is a little bit far around, but not finding a whole lot of improvement so far around on this lap. In fact, yeah, lost almost a whole second through Maggots and Beckett's on this lap. So that's probably your qualifying getting pretty close to done with less than a minute left on the clock. Lee Martin is one of the other drivers out here.
I was just going to chime in that Tom Sanders pretty new to the whole world of Spec-5 World Tour. But I was just checking out his profile. This guy's got 500 races in the last 18 months. That's I'm envious of that kind of commitment. I remember being in my early 20s and having some free time, and well, I've done a lot less than 500 in the last 3 months or 18 months. That's for sure.
So we're about to see nothing. Because the time runs out on the session, so no chance for Lee Martin to improve there. He's all done. Look at the grid then. 22 races, and the top of the pile is Timon Bramley from Ronnie Coates. Camden Hibbett starting out of third. Tell you what, it's pretty close with your top three there. And then Joshua Soto sits in fourth. Michael Coates and Mitchell Peake are 5th and 6th. Trevor Roy and Brett Marshall 7th and 8th. Michael Chase and Simon Foweather 9th and 10th. Our first open class drivers back here in 13th with Ian Giebler behind Ray Lombardi and David Starb. Eugenio Pellicci, Jordy Fike, Sean Hayes, Zeus Dalston, Josh Olsen, Tom Sanders, Greg Mack leads the top 20th. Paulo Coimbra and Lee Martin did both get qualifying times in, but I'm not sure either of them quite match the pace we know that those drivers are capable of. Yeah,
got the two of them a little bit out of position. but I would say that I'm not seeing anyone else that's really too far from where we've kind of come to expect them. Of course, we're going to start with our usual starting procedure here in the Spec-5 World Tour. So once everyone's gridded up, we'll get underway and do a nice long pace lap for ourselves here. And while we're at it, I figure we might as well take a moment to recap the points as we head into round 7, kind of the halfway pole of the series here. When they start the race today, they're in the first half, and when they finish it, they're in the second, I figure. Is that how math works? Who knows? But anyway, at the top of the grid right now is Camden Hibbett in our points. Ronnie Coates is second in the points, and Timon Bramley is third in the points. And the three of them are separated by, well, it's 299 for Camden, 296 for Timon, and 282 for Ronnie. So really kind of starting to separate themselves in a top 3 battle on the season. A little bit further back is Josh Soto. Soto's had a couple of weaker finishes over the first few races, in particular at Sebring and Okayama, where he just didn't have the result that he needed to keep himself up in that battle. Trevor Roy and Jordy Fike are 5th and 6th in the points, both sitting around 220 points, with Ray Lombardi right in the mix as well at 233. And then who else we got in there? I'm thinking this is like 7th, 8th. Well, it's a little bit hard to say with the drop weeks all considered after that, but a pretty tight points battle to say the least, with only about 100 points on offer in your average race here.
So on their formation lap right now, remember, if you got a favorite driver or teammate or friend you're trying to follow along, HJBC.live has live timing, all of the information, especially when we get towards the pit stops in the middle of the race. It can give you a good insight into what's going on and the length of the pit stops. I don't know, I've seen a couple of races where it all looks so even amongst 5 or 6 drivers, and then one of them really nails the fuel amount, all of that, and then one driver might just overfuel by a little bit, and suddenly they're out of contention for that win.
Yeah, you definitely. We've definitely seen the pit strategy be a pretty critical part of these races, and it should be no exception here today, with a pretty wide fuel window being available, and I suspect even a little wider than predicted with how much drafting is likely to be happening. Seeing the grid roll around here, you've probably also noticed a couple different colors of numbers on the grid. The red numbers, of course, belonging to the Pro class, and the blue numbers belonging to the Open class, the less, or I guess the lesser of the two classes. The Pro class points leader will have his number filled in red, and the Open class leader their number filled in blue. And then, of course, this whole wonderful league wouldn't be possible without the support of all the members. So we've got our gold donors, our silver donors, and our bronze donors, and they not only give themselves the chance to have some swaggy numbers on the screen, they also make sure that they get a high-quality broadcast and wonderful prizes at the end of the year when they contribute.
They get to have some extra votes in the track selection for new seasons as well. So there's a couple of nice little bits for that. Pace car's soon going to pull in, and you'll see that that's the pit entry that the drivers are going to use in time as well. Pit exit on the outside after cops. So pit lane in and out, always so important. But the green flag waves, and Timon Bramley, the pole sitter, leading them down towards turn 1. Cold tyres are a real challenge for these cars in these British track conditions. But Bramley takes the middle of the road line through cops, leaves them too wide behind him to try to battle it out in this opening part of the lap. So far, so good. Bramley, though, getting swallowed up as Camden Hibbett gets a good run towards Maggots and Beckett's, and he chops through into the lead of the race. Bramley back into second. Ronnie Coates and Michael Coates, always inseparable. They're side by side at the moment, 3rd and 4th, but it looks like Ronnie might get around the outside there and get his nose in front onto the hanger straight where the speeds really start ramping up and the slipstream kicks in.
Seeing a lot of patient driving from drivers off the start here. So far, things are very clean all the way through the pack. We're too wide, filtering down into single file as we get down to the end of the hangar straight, heading into Stowe. And we're too wide a little further back. That looks to me like the red and white car of Jordy Fike pushing up the inside of the likes of Ian Giebler and who's that? Yeah, Ian Giebler heading into the Vale chicane here.
Field so far so good. Biggest movers in the field. Foweather's picked up 2, Stubbs picked up 2, Sean Hayes has picked up 2, Josh Olsen's picked up 2. Ian Giebler though, open class pole sitter, he's been shuffled back to 17th at the moment. So Josh Olsen now leads class at the moment in open class as Timon Bramley's gotten back to the outright race lead as well. Most of the way around the first lap. It's so quick from the start finish line through cops, through the S's, around the lap until this final section where suddenly it's all a bit slower, a little bit more technical.
Yeah, and these cars aren't wanting to do technical right now with the tires still pretty cold underneath them. We're seeing a lot of pretty timid driving throughout the field just to compensate for how squirrely these cars are underneath them right now.
Well, it almost looks like Bramley away 1 second in the lead as they finish lap 1. But then the Spec-5 action happens behind with Ronnie Coates, Camden Hibbert, Michael Coates, Joshua Soto, and then it's just an unbroken line all the way through the rest of the field. Really working their way up to speed now on the second flying lap. But Joshua Soto, he's kicked up some dirt and some dust and then some. Not the fastest way through turn number 1, Cops Corner.
Yeah, there's a few guys running wide out there. Eugenio Polici's taking a spot from Ray Lombardi a little bit further back as Ray kind of ran it wide on the exit and then let Polici by. Tight battles throughout the field, though, as you'd expect at this point in the race. And we have a new leader in the open class. Josh Olsen has taken a spot from Ian Giebler and is holding him off through the early section of the lap. Josh Olsen's in that blue and black liveried car, blue, black, and white that you're seeing break into Stowe right now.
Yeah, so at the moment, very, very able to go with all the Pro Class cars in front with the long straights around this part of the lap. There's a little bit of speed through here, but then the most recent redesign of the track has actually tightened up Club Corner here. You see it's very open there. They don't need to use all the track on the way out at all. Flat out, no dramas on the way to that quick Abbey chicane.
Yeah, the only time you see that part of the track is if you've really screwed it up, I think, in these things for sure.
A move for the lead of open class, but it's flat out through the bridge corner there. So around the outside, Josh Olsen holds on. Ian Giebler slots in behind for the moment, thinking about getting that open class lead back. And they've got Zeus Starlston, Greg Mack, Lee Martin not far behind them here at all. You can see Giebler's looking one way, looking the other. Josh Olsen's holding position for the moment, but with all of that, dropped a couple of car lengths back off of Jordy Fike, who's the Pro Class car next up the road. So Giebler's right in behind, looking for open class lead.
Yeah, it's a good battle back here in the open class. He's looking up the inside into the most dangerous corner on the track, arguably. I thought we were going to have ourselves a Lewis Hamilton type of situation there, but things have cleared up, and now Giebler is fending off a threat from Tom Saunders, who gets it done easily into maggots.
Go Tom Sanders moves up one. He's actually last in Pro Class, so we've almost got a complete separation of the classes, which basically never happens in Spec-5 World Tour. There's always a couple of Pro Class drivers punching above, open class drivers punching above their weight, or maybe some Pro Class drivers that spun out or got hit or got punted earlier on. But if Sanders gets up ahead, then it completely separates them like oil and water. Bramley's not able to get away in the race lead either, as I think I just saw with Greg Mack go wide. So this is your top 5 here. Bramley, Ronnie Coates, Camden Hibbert, Michael Coates, Joshua Soto.
I was going to say, you don't often see an open class driver winning races, but when they do, they tend to become pro class drivers pretty quick, as was the case with the Ethan Stanley at Daytona there.
Underneath the bridge they go. Wonder why that corner's called that.
Impossible to say, really.
Yeah, there's just really no way to deduce or work it out. No way to know at all. So Bramley almost was out to a 1 second lead here, and that would have been pretty big around this track, but not quite been able to finish that. And he maybe runs a little wide there on the exit. Coates got a better run to just keep closing it up on the pit straight here. What's now the old pit straight, but for this configuration, that's where the pit lane is in our historic specification.
Yeah, I'm not sure we caught it on the broadcast, but the pace car had a heck of an entry into pit lane. Note to self, if you ever want to see something funny, go watch that thing dive across the grass into the pit lane. A little unorthodox to see a Porsche doing that. And the front pack of 5 is starting to form a little bit of a breakaway, trying to leave the Canadian Mitchell Peak in the dust. Right now they've got about a 1.5 second gap on him, and Mitchell's going to have to find his way back into that draft with Josh Soto. Otherwise, it's very much going to be a 5-car breakaway.
You get a great shot of it, long camera angle down Hanger Straight, your top 5, and then slightly lonely Mitchell Peak, and then Trevor Roy has Simon Foweather for close company here in 7th and 8th. Brett Marshall and David Starb behind that.
Mitchell's actually, ironically, the only one on the track who's not registering on our timing screen as being in a battle with 1.5 seconds on either side of him. We'll see if that carries on.
Yeah, he's just slightly adrift there. So was David Starb, who ended up a little offline from what I would have expected in that next group here, with Michael Chase behind. Chase in a slightly new livery as well. He's gone for the Alfa Romeo crest. It's got a cross and a snake, and I forget what else is on it.
All kinds of fun things, I'd have to imagine. So how long do you think until the global spec Miata gets an ND3 version here on iRacing?
Oh, next year's possible, right?
Who knows? I'm just excited. I want the new headlights. Come on.
I'll be honest, I've seen it and I couldn't tell you what's different about that one to this one, but if there is, I'll believe you.
Pretty subtle differences from what I hear, but I do have a dream that maybe they managed to squeeze a few more horsepower out of the efficiencies that are on this kind of motor. Anyway, back to the action. We come through.
Simon Bramley's got nothing of a lead now, and in fact, Ronnie Coates might have a look at him down towards Stowe Corner, and Camden Hibbett to go 3 wide for the race lead. Suddenly, it's all happening. They both slot in front of Bramley. Hibbett's got the inside line here at Stowe. It's slightly off camber at the inside, so around the outside goes Ronnie Coates, and I think he'll have the race lead. Suddenly, it all starts happening on lap 5.
Yeah, things are getting a little bit spicy. Timmons having to take some evasive action and some defensive action to keep Michael Coates behind him. And you got to think that if you're Ronnie Coates, you're not feeling too good about having Camden Hibbett up your inside after the little bit of drama that unfolded last race. And Camden, hearing me, is looking up the inside again. He's going to take it into Abbey there and clears Coates on their way into Bridge.
With an abbey, a priory, and a chapel, I'm surprised there isn't, a monastery corner here at Silverstone.
They probably needed one at the end of each runway, one of those sorts of deals.
So with that battle of the top 5, Mitchell Peak has been able to get back in.
We're seeing a little bit of drama here. Looks like
Trevor Roy.
Yeah, maybe Trevor Roy getting turned around, getting a little bit loose. Really easy to do. I'm not sure if he had any help. Just trying to. No, it looks like it was all him on the exit. That's the worst kind of mistake. But he carries on, no damage, lots of runoff here.
It does open up that gap a little bit between what's now our top 6 and Simon Foweather leading the next group in 7th at the moment. Mitchell Peak is going to do all of his best work here to try to go with these leaders, helped somewhat by the little battles they've been having. Camden Hibbett leads them onto the Hanger Straight, and this is where we saw 3 wide happen last time. Coates in 2nd, Simon Bramley in 3rd. Still seeing Joshua Soto and Michael Coates just hang back at the moment, but Hibbett thinks he's going to come under pressure because he drives middle of the road down the straight. Bramley gets down the inside of Ronnie Coates, but then Hibbett runs wide. He has a bobble. He has a moment in the middle of the corner. He loses his lead, and they're all lining up to send him back to 4th place if they can. He's going to be side by side with Josh Soto here. Try to rejoin back in 3rd, and almost a little bit of door banging action between 1st and 2nd there as Bramley gets back to the race lead.
Yeah, Camden's using up all the inside as he tries to get a run here, and he's going to make it 2 wide on the outside of Ronnie Coates. Coates is squeezing him out, though, and Camden has to get all the way off the track. Ronnie's now up the inside into Abbey.
Trying to hang tough around the outside. Simon Bramley gives you the inside at Bridge Corner, which is flat out. It's the inside at the next left-hander that matters the most. So Ronnie Coates goes around the outside, tries to keep his nose in the inside here. This is where we saw Trevor Roy run out of grip. So you do got to be careful how much momentum you carry in there, how aggressively you take that corner. Ronnie Coates leading it at the moment. It's all brought Mitchell Peak in, and it's all starting to kick off out front here now.
Yeah, if they keep this up, Simon Foweather's going to be in their mirrors real quick too, as that gap's starting to come down between the top 6 and the next pack from 7th to 12th.
Lap times update, and that next pack was a second quicker with everything we saw between the leaders, like Camden Hibbett going off the road, some side-by-side battling through the middle part of the lap and through Abbey, and it means the top 6 are not necessarily easily getting away with this one. Simon Foweather will be praying for more battles like that. We'll see if we get it onto the Hanger Straight this time. That seems like where it all kicks off, just as they come onto the Hanger Straight here.
Makes plenty of sense. Uphill, a little bit of draft, and these Miatas aren't too good at doing anything but drafting with each other. It looks like another big draft is Ronnie Coates is going to get a tap here from Tim and Bramley on their way into Stowe Corner. And behind them, Soto makes an attack of opportunity, I'd say, up the inside of Camden Hibbett, who took a little bit of a wide line on the entry into the corner.
Yep, Joshua Soto takes 3rd. They'll check up a little bit into Vale, and Michael Coates and Mitchell Peak barrel in and need to be careful not to outbreak themselves and come in like a bowling ball there. 2 seconds between Peak in 6th and Simon Foweather in 7th. You can just see it's another big pack back there behind our leaders. David Stubbs been one of the ones making a couple of moves in that group. So too Eugenio Polici. So we've kind of been watching the lead. I think there's a bit of shaping up happening in the group behind as well.
Yeah, they've certainly been pretty responsible back there this time. We'll see if that ends up being enough to close them up. But that second group being led by Simon Foweather has got the likes of David Staub, Brett J. Marshall, Eugenio Polici, Michael Chase, and Ray Lombardi, who would all love to be a part of that battle for the top spot.
Whoa, that's Zeus Dalston off the road. We'll take a look at the replay. So Lee Martin behind maybe gets in a little bit hot. I think that's Greg Mack that then tags the both of them. A little bit of Mazda pieces get left behind. Maybe Devon will get his wish and it'll be updated with an ND3 bumper. But yeah, a bit of a check-up moment through there. Zeus gets a whack.
Soto just took the most aggressive line into Maggots. That was pretty wild. He was on the outside of Tim and Bramley. We'll see if we can get a replay here. But he made a hell of a move. Had all four wheels sliding on their way in. And we're getting the replay here now. So you'll see Soto, he's up the inside of Timon, and he just risks everything. All four tires over the curb, locks them up, sliding sideways, and then gets the thing pointed the right way. It's fast and it's sketchy, but it's worked out for him. And Soto's now up into second place after dropping back a little bit earlier in the race, running as far back as 5 when they were on cold tires. 5th, rather, when they're on cold tires.
Bramley's in third, moving around a little bit. Look at him trying to cover off Cam's inhibit, who eventually gets the message. Bramley gets in a little hot to Abby, potentially. But that's still our top 6 at the moment. Approaching 8 laps completed, 13 to go. Approaching the pit stop window as well.
Yeah, figured that could probably open up as early as the 9th lap here. So next time by, but it's also a pretty good chance that some of these guys are doing some fuel saving up here. I just gotta say, I love to see Camden just feisty and weaving around. No chance he's making a move, but maybe is he? I love it.
The old ha ha ha, unless.
Yeah, exactly. Also got
me there.
I was also going to say I appreciate Michael Coates hanging out with the group up here with a lowly rating of 1,800 amongst the group of 4,000 and 5,000 and 6,000 iRating guys up here. It's kind of a funny a funny contrast to see. But hey, some guys are just league racers, and Coates is certainly one of those.
This is a car that if you're good at it and you race it and only it in official racing, you'll really run up your iRating. But if you then, I'll jump in some GT3, I'll jump in some that, whatever, maybe you lose some of that. Looking at the race lead though, Joshua Soto gets in front of Ronnie Coates at the end of the hangar straight. It's all a little more orderly than in past. He carries a lot of speed in, and there's a little bit of a crest or a camber change or something in the middle of Stowe Corner there where you can get offline, but Soto will just hold on to the race lead in pro class. In open class, Ian Giebel has broken about 2 seconds on Josh Olsen.
Yeah, I didn't see the move happen, but I will say that since he made the overtake, the last couple of laps have been a little quicker from Ian Giebel.
So that's what's happening in open class at the moment. In the pro class, Simon Bramley had a look trying to pass for second place. It didn't work. Cam's inhibit got underneath him into the next corner, moved up into third.
3 wide, a little further back between Michael Chase, Ray Lombardi, and that looks like Brett J. Marshall. They were 3 wide going underneath the bridge, managed to sort themselves out now, but that part of the group is not sorted just yet, and Ray Lombardi locked it up and had to take a little bit of grass there, taking evasive action on their way through left field. Sorry, Brooklands. I'll learn them all. You know it.
At this point, I'm just assuming that Luffield is another word for monastery and Brooklands is another word for monastery. What's a Stowe? It could be another type of monastery.
It seems safe to bet.
What's a club but a monastery that you can leave?
There's a prominent French singer who's got a song called House Alleluia, so I presume that's what they play at the club. Anyways.
Side by side for that pro lead again, having to go around the outside. Ronnie Coates looks around the outside on Joshua Soto. Again, there's just something weird to the camber of Stowe Corner where lines that would work if it were flat don't, just because you end up a little way away from the grip. To the inside of Vale, Ronnie Coates keeps his nose in there, pushes Joshua Soto off the conventional or preferred line. And it just means that the next drivers in the group, 3rd, 4th, 5th, get an even better look at this. Is it going to be side by side for the race lead? Again with Joshua Soto defending the inside line. Camden Hibbett in 3rd. He's decided, who do I want to go with here? And he's decided, I think Ronnie Coates is going to win this one, and then I'm going to get to the inside of him at Bridge. So Soto goes back to 3rd.
It's getting spicy up there. I wonder if they're starting to think about jockeying for position and when the right time to make that dive for the pit lane is going to be.
Can't be too far away because on this lap is when we're going to cross the halfway point of the time in the race. So we do have 2 drivers heading for pit entry. It's Simon Bramley, it's Michael Coates, and Mitchell Peake goes with them as well. So a clean split. 3 stay out, 3 go in from the next group. We're also seeing Eugenio Pellicci enter the pits as well. I think just those 4, but 3 from the leading group.
Yeah, early stops and clean stops for all of them. Critically, almost all of them. I jinxed it. Timon actually came to a stop too early and had to go a little burp forwards. Luckily, he didn't have to shift gears, but that'll have cost him a few tenths in the lane. And we'll see. I am seeing a lot of fuel going in the cars, Haynes, and we'll see if that remains the trend. But the fastest one away, that's Mitchell Peake. So he not only comes in last, takes the least fuel and motors away with, I'd say nearly 4 seconds less of fuel than some of the guys around him.
Pit exits aggressively policed these days on iRacing, so you've got to make sure you take the right lane on pit exit and stay inside of the white line until the exit. But yeah, quite a variance to the pit stop times there. 17.5 for Peake, 19 for Bramley, 21 for Michael Coates. So Coates will have lots of fuel. Bramley seems to be the middle ground. Has Mitchell Peake cut it a little fine after spending about half of that opening stint, sitting 6th place in the group. And Eugenio Pellicci's done a really good job of catching them with his quick stop as well.
Yeah, Pellicci was in that next group, and I think if I were him, I'd be hoping that I could save enough in the lane in order to catch up, or at least get a sniff of that draft ahead. Oh, and a little bit of action further up. That's Brett J. Marshall facing the wrong way, on the way into Abbey there. Yeah, he's got it wrong. He's got it facing the wrong way, and he's towed it all the way back to the pits. Had some traffic oncoming and just decided to dodge it, and actually he's disconnected now. So I'm thinking that Brett's had some sort of technical there to get the thing facing the wrong way. Either way, back to the lead, we got Camden Hibbett, Josh Soto, and is that a 3rd car in there? No, just the 2 of them in the pit lane, with Michael Chase pretty far behind, and Jordy Fike with him. So a couple more stops.
Yeah, so Hibbett and Soto in. Ronnie Coates stays out from what was our leading 6, our 6 best placed drivers in contention for the win. Some little left side tyres there from Michael Chase. And
they're side by
very,
side.
very even off the pit exit here, but I think Joshua Soto just manages it. He gets ahead of... I don't think you can take that lane.
I don't know. We'll have to see. I think that's going to be an unsafe release for him, but we'll see what it ends up being.
Maybe take that lane. There's no black flag. I really would have thought you can't do that.
This is good stuff. Camden Hibbett's doing real race car driver stuff, you know. You'd see that in a real Spec Miata race and they'd just nod and say race on. But out here, I'm a little bit surprised. I was going to say, though, that this pit strategy, this overcut has worked for them. Soto and Camden coming out ahead of Mitchell, Timon, and Michael Coates, and coming out with a couple of seconds to spare at this point. And it does make me wonder, maybe Coates is onto something with this overcut, because I gotta say, while they were in the pack, they weren't averaging laps as fast as they were running in qualifying. So maybe without the pressure of the other guys around them, Coates can put in a few fast ones.
Yeah, so a couple of splits on strategy, and it includes Ronnie Coates still staying out. Keep an eye on the lap times. 208.4 last time, now 208.3. Don't really know just yet what the likes of Joshua Soto or Camden Hibbett are capable of post their pit stops. We'll shortly know about Bramley and Michael Coates and some of the others.
A few more takers for the pit lane this time by. David Staub, Simon Fullweather, Sean Hayes hit the lane, and also Ian Giebler pitting from the lead of the open class. One of our first drivers in the open field. No, actually, one of several drivers in the open field who have pit. So it'll be interesting to see where he comes out relative to the likes of Greg Mack and Lee Martin, who've taken their stops already.
Moderately long hold from Simon Foweather. Not as long as David Staub, who just gets out ahead of him on the exit. Oh, what lane do all of these guys take? The conventional one.
Does look like it. I suppose if you didn't see, I guess, the blue line, you might not know which lane the cone corresponds to. It's a little bit odd, that's for sure. But I guess it's not a penalty for the man who is now the leader, minus Ronnie Coates. Coates will be the one who decides. He's heading into Abbey and then under Bridge, and well, he's got at least a few more laps that he could keep this up. We'd think, based on the calculations we were seeing earlier.
So the last lap for Ronnie Coates, the driver you're looking at, running long on the strategy here, 208.3. Meanwhile, their first flying lap since their pit stops, Mitchell Peake 208.3, Timon Bramley 208.0, Michael Coates 208.2. So they got a little bit more speed, some of the guys in this group here, than Ronnie Coates has running alone. But some of that is the slipstream just closing them up to the pace that Camden Hibbett and Joshua Soto is going to do. And then maybe on lockstep with that, Ronnie Coates is in the pit lane from the race lead. He's got to have a good stop because his chances of winning hinge on rejoining with or in front of that group of drivers we've just seen. The gang is back together. Timon Bramley, Michael Coates, Mitchell Peake, Joshua Soto, Camden Hibbett. It's just Ronnie Coates that they're missing, and they're going to see where he stands in a moment. Tom Sanders is also on the lane, which just leaves us with Paulo Coimbra, Ray Lombardi, Trevor Roy, and Zeus Darlston yet to pit, but Zeus Darlston's in the pit lane now as well. So it's fuel only from Ronnie Coates. Here's where that other group is, just hitting the pit lane now. He's getting away on the pit exit, Ronnie Coates. I reckon he'll be close to just with the pack.
Yeah, he'll be feeling pretty decent about that, I gotta think. I think he'll have the upper hand heading into Maggots. Sure enough, he will. And I think he's made the call correctly this time.
So the band is back together. Still just waiting on Ray Lombardi and Trevor Roy to stop. All the pit stops done for everyone else in open class. Has Ian Giebler now with about a 3.5 second lead. And Eugenio Pollicci is just in the background, a shot with the leaders there, and he's not able to stick with them, unfortunately. He had what I'd call a pretty aggressive pit stop. It necessitates a bit of fuel saving in the back half here, but if it gets you with the leaders, that's great. Then you can save that fuel. But unfortunately, he's just been left behind and the ship has sailed.
Yeah, and so with 3 different strategies across 3 different laps, we've ended up with the same 6 cars up at the front. But a fair shuffle to the group. With the likes of Ray Lombardi, of Ronnie Coates leading the way. Speaking of Ray Lombardi, he's about to hit the pit lane this time after collecting, I think, a point for leading a lap. Has Ray, as he comes to the lane this time. And Trevor Roy will do the same. Tom Saunders has actually had a little bit of a moment just there as he was heading through, I guess that's the Vale chicane. He's got a little bit wrong and on the exit started sliding and just kept sliding and kept sliding, manages to gather it up and carry on, but that'll cost him a position to Greg Mack in the open class.
Sure does, where he finds himself now, just ahead of Zeus Dalston, probably having worn those tyres a little bit. I was hearing that tyre wear higher around here than some other tracks, so I did see 1 or 2 drivers go for left-hand side tyres. Ian Giebler was one of them. I think Michael Chase did it as well, but those are the only ones I remember seeing. For the most part, for our leaders, they went no tyres. So if you suddenly see Michael Chase or Ian Giebler looking like a rocket ship in the back half of this race, you'll know why.
Yeah, the downside of tires, though, is, of course, that they go on cold. So it's 3 wide in the front, so I better stop analyzing tires here. But Soto is going to pick a line as Ronnie Coates looks up the inside of Camden Hibbett into Vale here. Oh, and nicely done, but doesn't quite get enough to clear him. And Camden Hibbett's going to hold the inside line, forces Ronnie out wide, and Ronnie's going to have to run that kind of awkward outside line. Gets plenty of room from Camden, though. Someone get Camden a VR headset or a triple monitor so he can see that on the outside. But he'll be held back here, and Josh Soto takes advantage to find himself up into second place.
Yeah, sure does. You get offline in some of these places, and then 1 or 2 or 3 cars might just consider freight training you. Soto gets close with a tighter line into the left-hander there before it then slows up the next left. Friendly gets in a bit hot here as well. He's getting close to friendly with some of those rear bumpers. Taking a look at a replay for Eugenio Pellicci at the Abbey chicane, and he just gets wide on the grass, leaps it over the curb, and no, he can't save it.
Yeah, he sticks it into the wall and parks it right away. I'm surprised there was enough damage there to warrant a tow, but I guess there was. It's easy to break a steering arm or bend something up, I guess. Got a few cars sitting on the lane right now, actually. Pollard Coimber's there as well. And, oh no, just the 2.
Brett Marshall has been parked for about 10 minutes at this point as well. So those are the only 3 cars that we've missed since the start of this race. And since about lap 2, it's been the same 6 drivers out front. What's going on between Ronnie Coates and Joshua Soto? They're pushing each other along. 3rd and 4th trying to push each other along. Getting a little bit more gamesmanship now, but I don't think Coates or Soto are going to be able to get away from the speed that Timon Bramley or Camden Hibbett would have separately, let alone together.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of teamwork going on up at the front, but I'm not sure how long that'll last if Timon manages to get back on the bumper. And sure enough, this time in Vale, he does a pretty dang good job of getting in there.
To the Abbey chicane.
I was going to say a little deeper in the field, Michael Chase is getting a bit of a run on Jordy Fike ahead of him as they head down towards Abbey. And Jordy's watching his mirrors. He's got Michael Chase left and then Michael Chase right and Michael Chase up the inside, and nicely done on the brakes. Manages to clear Fike by just a millimeter there, I'd say. So having a lot of fun here as they're battling over the back half of the top 10. Going to be a good points haul for these guys with a few of our top competitors not showing up. The field a little thinner than usual this week. And they're fighting for every single one of those points right now.
Remember those new left side tires that Chase took, so every right hand corner should really help him, and of course that's most of them. That's some really quick ones as well, so you've got more grip out of the final corner here down the straight, more grip into turn 1, more grip into Stowe, which is proving to be a good overtaking opportunity. So you've got a little more grip there. Then I think you can go outside, you can go inside, pick and choose your line. Paulo Coimbra is rejoining the race. I just saw him on the pit exit.
I just saw a big puff of smoke from back in the pack. Greg Mack took a shunt on the way into Prairie Corner. And he was leading Tom Sanders. And Tom Sanders was looked like the perpetrator there. Zeus Dalston is the beneficiary as he takes a spot from both of them. But we'll see here just slightly different braking markers, I'm thinking. And it ends up with Mack facing the wrong way. Implications, though, for the open class as Dalston goes from 5th up to 3rd in the points. And now only Josh Olson and Ian Giebler ahead of him.
Joshua Soto goes to the outright lead of the race ahead of Ronnie Coates. Simon Bramley sitting there in 3rd. So we've got Mitchell Peak and Michael Coates 5th and 6th. And then Soto's on a line to try to break the draft or be in position to defend the inside if he feels he comes under attack, which he doesn't. 2nd and 3rd remain behind, but Soto and Coates ran a little wide of the apex on the way in here, and this is Camden Hibbett's favourite move, to try to switch back over-under on the exit of Abbey to get to the inside of Bridge, and he just tried it on Simon Bramley and didn't get any success out of it that time, but it's a move he's tried a few times now.
Yeah, he really does seem to have something figured out in there that the other guys don't quite have. Speaking of different ways of driving the car, Soto is just, the car is so loose. He's really sliding the rear end of the thing around, and especially as he gets to the apex out of every corner, he's just like almost putting it on the nose and just ripping the rear end around the corner. It's kind of a wild driving style out of him, but it sure is quick.
7.5 minutes, 4 laps to go like this. And your top 6 inseparable now, almost underneath 1 second. All the pit stops done. Definitely Michael Coates and Michael Coates with the most fuel to burn here. The others might have just needed a tiny bit to save in the early phase, tiny bit to save in this phase. And the tyres are starting to get a bit greasier, be a bit past their peak here as well. Fastest lap of the race is somewhere in the 207s. Last lap for our leaders was in the 209s here. You got 3rd and 4th bump drafting each other as Joshua Soto moves around, wiggling and weaving, trying to break the slipstream to Ronnie Coates, who's not afraid of trying to go around the outside of Stowe Corner, also not afraid of trying to cut back on the exit with some speed towards the braking zone at Vale.
Just interesting for me to see how Michael Coates is really just, and it's getting spicy up at the front, but Coates is kind of just hanging back. Meanwhile, at the front, it looks like Ronnie Coates is going to have the outside line on Vale. And Timon is giving Soto a bit of a push up the inside.
And Mitchell Peak's decided now's the time to get aggressive as well, as he has just a tiny little bit of contact there door-to-door with Camden Hibbett. He tried to attack into Vale earlier in this lap as well, so Peak has decided now's the time for him to get in and amongst this. Ronnie Coates around the outside, good momentum, leads, tries to come across and cut off Joshua Soto, while Bramley tries to go around the outside to have the inside for this long right-handed here, and he gives Soto a little bit of a how you going in the passenger side door coming off the final corner to start. 3 laps to go, our top 6 still underneath 1 second, and Ronnie Coates leading.
Yeah, it's going to get dicier and dicier with 3 laps. It's too wide on the way into Cops this time. Camden's going to hold the inside. Mitchell Peak's going to give it up. It's a little bit dicey being that wide on the exit too. Of course, this is in the days of AstroTurf and grass out there.
Pikes Peak is fully sealed, but Mitchell Peak isn't. He's going off-roading on the exit of Cops Corner, but he stays in 5th for the moment.
And they're all in a line as they head up the Hangar Straight this time. We'll see who gets the run.
It's Bramley. No defense offered by Ronnie Coates. Timon Bramley gets down the inside at the Hangar Straight. Bit of movement happening behind them. 3rd and 4th between the potentially mistakable cars of Joshua Soto and Camden Hibbett. Same colour palette in use there. Coates very confident with his grip around the outside of Stowe that he held on to that race lead on the way into Vale. Big dive from Soto.
Big slide from Soto too at the apex, and again as he tried to turn in, he's gotten that all kinds wrong. He's going to filter almost all the way to the back of this pack. Going to be battling for 4th or 5th place on the way into Vale or Abbey this time.
This is Peak looking to go around the outside. Hold your position right. A little bit of the curb there. The curbs that saw Eugenio Polici come unstuck. And close moment going down the hill at Bridge there as well. It's all looking pretty good for your leader. Ronnie Coates has almost got 1 second, but I think he got in a little hot into that previous corner. Timon Bramley's starting to hit his lines here as well to make sure no one gets away. And he's got Camden Hibbert following him. Joshua Soto's not quite done fending off Mitchell Peak or Michael Coates there as well as we start 2 laps to go. The next pack is led by Ray Lombardi. Still got Michael Chase, Geordie Fike, David Starb, and Simon Foweather has caught up to that group there as well. Foweather was the quickest car anywhere on track last lap.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from, but that was a flyer for him. That's exactly right.
So in this group, Ray Lombardi still making some moves to try to break the slipstream there. Michael Chase, we know, the new tyres, but are they enough to hold off Geordie Fike? Oh, you don't normally see many passes happen through here, but Fike was very, very confident with it. Gets ahead of Michael Chase, lets Ray Lombardi get away a little bit. How's David Starb going to go? He looks like he took quite a bit of fuel in the pit stops as well, so he should be able to hold the throttle flat, slipstream or none.
And a second win for our leaders up at the front. It looks like the top 3 are forming a bit of a breakaway. We've got Josh Soto now hanging off the back of them, doing everything he can to try to get back in contact. But when they were going down the hanger straight, there was almost a second between all of them. Now, sure enough, it closes up once the commentators' eyes get on it. But Michael Coates is still hanging on to the back and presumably looking for an opportunity, because right now Tim and Bramley and Ronnie Coates are looking like they're trying to run away with it.
Yeah, they haven't let Ronnie Coates form a breakaway just yet. So the top 6 close up once again. They get through the twistier section of the lap here that closes it all out. It's Priory, Luffield, Brooklands, etc.
And are we coming to 2 to go, or are we coming to 1 to go? I've seen my laps remaining counter jump back and forth a little bit just recently.
I don't know exactly how they're teaching maths up there, but we're doing 2-minute laps. There's 1:20 left on the clock. Definitely comfortably the final lap here. White flag waving at the start-finish line as Ronnie Coates leads them to one more tour of Silverstone, with Timon Bramley hot on his heels. Camden Hibbert sitting in 3rd. Joshua Soto has had plenty of speed and he's not going to lift. Fully committed through Cops Corner. Joshua Soto back there in 4th.
Yeah, it's spicy among the top 3 right now as they're going through Beckett's and Chapel. But it looks like the real answer to our questions are going to be found at the end of the straightaway as they get down to Stowe. And this time we're seeing them all forcing over to the right-hand side, trying to close the door. But it looks like we're going to see Timon up the inside this time, with Camden trying to decide which lane is going to be the winner. And he opts to just take the best line, which is the fastest line, and get right up on the rear bumper. He's going to give Coates a push on the way into Vale. This time lifts off, and it's too wide at the front.
Ronnie Coates has just been so mega around the outside of Stowe every single lap. Now around the outside of Club Corner, he's looking pretty good there as well. He's kept Timon Bramley boxed on a relatively tight line. Now Camden Hibbert looks to follow Ronnie Coates to the inside of the Abbey chicane. Now he pulls out, looking for the race lead at one of the last opportunities. Ronnie Coates breaks so deep, runs very wide on the way in, but a big slide from Camden Hibbert as well. Neither of them are quite on their line. Bramley carries some speed, makes some contact with second place, Camden Hibbert. Ronnie Coates is still holding on to this, and you're running out of places to pass on the final lap. It's a 6-way scrap. Everyone trying to buy in at the last opportunity, like Mitchell Peake, like Michael Coates, also getting their shoulders out, also rubbing some elbows, but Ronnie Coates is the car in front, holding the race lead with 1 corner left to go. Is there a way that Camden Hibbert can beat him to the line? It's not Daytona, it's Silverstone, and the checkered flag waits. The start-finish line comes up pretty quickly out of the final corner here at Silverstone on this classic Grand Prix layout, and it means Ronnie Coates takes the race win from Camden Hibbert and Simon Bramley. Joshua Soto and Michael Coates, Mitchell Peake, our top 6. There'll be some positions fought all the way to the death as well in the later placings, with Ray Lombardi ahead of Geordie Fike, David Starr, Simon Foweather. Someone's been off, and a couple of positions are changed back here as well.
Michael Chase isn't off. He's out of fuel. And so the 2 tires was a great strategy, but the math calculations were a bit like my calculations coming to the line there, as Michael Chase is trying to roll it all the way to the start-finish line, but he's given up positions. Josh Olson comes by 2nd place in the open class. Ian Giebler already having taken the win. Zeus Dalston will be coming up behind him for 3rd place, and Lee Martin for 4th in open, and Michael is just rolling along, praying that there's enough of a downhill slope for him to get there. Oh, what a heartbreaker for him. Greg Mack's coming up behind him, and they're there with Tom Sanders as well, and it's going to be really close here at the line to see. Oh, it's a photo finish for 18th place, 17th place, and Greg Mack. Greg Mack and Tom Saunders have both beaten Michael Chase to the line. So Michael Chase
still hasn't crossed the line. Chase still has not crossed the timing line. He'd have a whole lap at spare fuel if he used Devin Peters' timing, but in this case, he's come up short. It's coughed and it's spluttered, an inch short of the timing line, and he's gone from battling for a top 10 to last car on the lead lap. Maybe not even finishing this last lap. He just needs to get to where Barney is. Get out and push. That's why you got to have your starter button mapped, because you can bump the car in gear on the starter motor for a couple of meters, and not think about the damage that probably does in a real situation.
Oh, what a heartbreaker for him. It's S by default. I and S. Let's see it. It's a heartbreak though.
So everyone except Michael Chase has crossed the start-finish line. Someone going to come around and push him? I'm not sure. But Ronnie Coates, he was definitely a race winner from Camden Hibbert, Simon Bramley, Joshua Soto, Michael Coates, Mitchell Peake, Ray Lombardi, Geordie Fike, and David Starb up in 9th there ahead of Simon Foweather. Sean Hayes in 11th. Ian Giebler, best placed open class driver there, with a free space between himself and the next in class, because Trevor Roy was 13th, and then Josh Olson was 14th. Zeus Dalston 15th outright, 3rd in class. Lee Martin, Greg Mack, Tom Sanders, cars that crossed the start-finish that line there. Michael Chase has had to tow the car and will be scored a lap down. Man, oh man, gives him 19th place, with Paolo Coimbra in 20th, Eugenio Pellicci 21st, and Brett Marshall 22nd. Man, you feel for Michael Chase. He was so close.
Close, but no cigar. That's what they say. But yeah, bummer for him, and a celebration for some of the other parts of the grid, I gotta think. We'll see if we can locate any of those drivers.
Well, like our open class winner, Ian Giebler. Ian joins us. Congratulations.
David, thank you.
So, some talk about the tires, a relatively abrasive circuit this Silverstone.
Yeah, the car, the tires take about a lap and a half to come in, and if you give it all your all on that first flying lap, you're gonna find the grass pretty quick. I knew that from practice. Stayed super conservative. I took lefts in the pits. That seemed to help when I came out, and somehow I bought that track this week and I managed 0 incident points, and that was like may have been harder than winning open.
So what are the challenging parts of this lap then?
Oh, the circuit. There's a couple turns where you go down to first and the car really wants to get away from you. And you really got to be easy on the brakes. If the back skids out of just a hair, you're losing tenths a second on a turn. So just being super smooth here helped a lot.
You get yourself another great open class result. Definitely a championship category that could go down to the wire. What's the focus then for how to consistently get consistent results in open class when you're sometimes the candy in the piñata?
Yeah, just having clean starts. I've been able to have pace to stay up front with the leading open class guys. So I'm really just trying to focus on getting through those first 2 or 3 laps clean, and then race my race. So I think I've got good pace this season with this group, and this might have put me up into first for open. So I'm hoping to just keep having good results and stay up at the top of the leaderboard.
6 more rounds still to come. You definitely can't count chickens too early. Unpredictable things happen all the time. But next week, a track I think you know a thing or two about, VIR.
I've been pretty successful there in some front-wheel drive cars in your other series, so hopefully that translates to the Miatas, and I can have a good showing there as well.
Awesome. We'll see you there. Congratulations again on your open class victory.
Thank you.
Well, I've wandered around and I see Ronnie, so we're just gonna drag him in here. Open mics ablazing and see what Ronnie's got to say about an impressive victory after an impressive fight in the last few laps there. Eh, Ronnie?
Yeah, it's pretty tense. The elbows out. I'm sweating, sitting in a pool of sweat in my chair here.
It looks like things were getting pretty feisty at the end there, and it looked like the cars were really slipping and sliding around underneath you.
Yeah, well, for sure. Probably pushing a little too hard and taking lines you're not necessarily used to because you're side by side and some squirrely corners there. Yeah, I thought it was a really good finish and side by side. Like I think for the last, I don't know, like the 4 or 5 corners to the middle of that last lap, and I think I just barely rubbed Bramley a little bit. But anyway, it was it was a good battle, man. It was a really good battle.
You got to keep those Australians off you, you know. So I understand a little bit of that, but a good finish for you, and a good finish in the points. You know, the 7th race of the season, a first place finish. I got to think that's keeping you in the running for the top 3 that is forming between you, Camden, and Timon.
Yeah, I'm sure it definitely helps. I mean, I'd been finishing up close to the front and can't quite get it done, so it was nice to get it done today on a fun track too. This is always a fun track to race on.
I haven't been around long enough to know, but do you got any championships in your past, or are you fighting for your first one this year?
I did actually. I got the championship last time around, and maybe 3 or 4 seasons before that. So, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Best of luck to you, and we'll see you at the next one.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Put that Ronnie back where you found him if you can, Devon. Great to hear from our victors in both classes, pro and open. Ronnie Coates there outright in a 6-way fight that seems like it went on all 45 minutes. And Ian Giebler talking us through his tyre strategy that got him the open class win. I think the strategy advice I wouldn't take is Michael Chase's fueling advice, as he came up heartbreakingly short there and ended up scored in 19th. We said it, next round of Spec-5 World Tour is round 8 from VIR, a track that's had a little bit of a graphical touch-up in recent seasons, so it will look mighty pretty when we get there in a week's time, except minus the beloved oak tree, unfortunately. But You can't have it both ways. We'll see you there in a week's time here on HJBC for Spec-5 World Tours Round 8. Being David Haynes with Devin Peters, Michael Derby with the production. Remember, wherever you're watching our HJBC production, to give us a like, give us a follow. Lots more iRacing content still to come to you.